10 millimeter versus 357 Magnum. Today what I'm doing is the ultimate 10 millimeter versus 357 Magnum test. And what I mean by that is I'm going to use rounds that are very powerful. I have a lot of respect for these companies and that are loaded extraordinarily fairly. Now, first of all, we got to look at the barrel travel in these guns. From the nose of the bullet to the muzzle, we're talking 4.1 inches with 357 Magnum. Same thing in this particular Glock 41 conversion. It's a 5.32 inch barrel. From bullet nose to muzzle, we also have 4.1 inches of bullet travel. Now, the ammunition I'm going to use today are different brands, and there's a specific reason for that. Buffalo Bore, I have a lot of respect for that company and the ammunition they produce, and I have absolutely no doubt that that round is going to be an excellent representation of 357 Magnum in the way that it used to be loaded. Now, with the 10 millimeter, I'm using Underwood for the same reason. They load extraordinarily good semi-automatic cartridges. I haven't been totally impressed with their Revolver cartridges, but their semi-automatic cartridges are excellent. Another thing that makes this fair, these are both Hornady XTP bullets. And this is a 155 grain 10 millimeter, and this is a 125 grain 357 Magnum. And why this is perfect comparison here is because the sectional density is near identical. 125 grain, we're talking about it's something like 0.14, and the 10 millimeter 0.143, almost exactly the same sectional density. So you can't just go and get two different diameter bullets of different cartridges and compare the exact same thing, because the sectional density would be off. Basically what sectional density is the amount of mass behind each like square millimeter of bullet diameter. That's just the basic way to do it. So we're comparing sectional density. When we have the same sectional density, that's more fair than using the same bullet weight in general. So we're going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy we get at the same time, and then as always we're going to go through the Juggernaut box, which contains a 1 3/4 inch pack of bologna that kind of simulates like a pectoral muscle, covered by 4 layers of denim, followed by 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard that represents like ribs or sternum. And how this normally compares to ballistics gel is at the back of jug 1, we're talking about 9 inches. Back of jug 2, 12. Back of jug 3, 15 inches. Back of jug 4, 18 inches, and so forth. That's how it compares to gel. So let's get started with the test between 10 millimeter and 357 Magnum with some really high-end cartridges loaded the way that they are supposed to be. So let's get started with the test. All right, I'm about 4 yards from the chronograph, 5 yards from the target. First round I'm going to run through the chronograph is going to be this 10 millimeter. By the way, it's rated at 1,500 feet per second. Usually that's out of a 5-inch barrel, so let's see how close we get to 1,500 feet per second. 1532. 1533, I got a feed jam on that bullet nose. All right, new round. Keep going with this. 1522. 1497. 1501. So we are definitely above that rated velocity. Very, very powerful 10 millimeter, and the recoil actually wasn't that bad at all, surprisingly. Now let's try the 357 Magnum and see how that compares. All right, Buffalo Bore 357 Magnum. This has a rated velocity of 1,700 feet per second out of a 6-inch barrel, 1,600 feet per second out of a 4-inch barrel. So Buffalo Bore is rating this at 1,600 out of a barrel length this long. So let's see how close we get to 1,600. 1713. 1687, 1692, 1668, 1697. Excellent accuracy. Buffalo Bore, you did a good job with this one. Let's hit the ballistic box and see how these two compare to each other. All right, first up is that Underwood 10 millimeter. I should probably stand back a little ways, but I need to make a nice accurate shot with this, so let's see what we get with the 10 millimeter. I've never seen that before. And that baloney pack hit me hard. That's why I was thinking I should stand back. So much for not washing this vest for a while. Let's see what we got. So I made a clean shot through the denim. This is all that's left. This is about 3 ounces worth of a pound. I don't know where the fiberboard is, but I see fragments of it, so let's take a look. Now the obvious thing we're seeing here is the first board or the first jug has been thrown up over the top. That is massive amount of damage. Hard to hold it. More than I've ever seen in any round I've ever tested. The fiberboard is completely gone. So if this were ribs or sternum, it would be fragmenting inside the body. Very unlikely anything could survive this. So let's see what we got in jug 2. And jug 2 looks about like jug 1 with 9mm. So that just goes to show how much energy this has entering jug 2. Jug 3, there's a little crack out the back that would indicate 15 inches of ballistics gel, so not over penetration at all. Let's look at this bullet. This is extraordinary because this is an XTP. It completely flattened an XTP. An XTP is a very solid, tough bullet. It's very hard to often get expansion even on cartridges like 9mm with it. So the fact that it completely peeled back and flattened a 155 grain bullet to make it look like it's a 110 grain bullet or something, that is really impressive. Very impressive. Now let's see how the 357 Magnum compares to this. All right, 357 Magnum, theoretically with the similar amount of energy and sectional density, we should get similar amount of penetration, but we will actually see what we get here. 357 Magnum. I don't know where all the baloney's at because I don't see any. So a lot of this baloney flew behind me. So what we got is a blown apart pack here. Same thing, same story. A little bit less leftover baloney with the 357 Magnum than with the 10mm. And with the fiberboard, we blew a much larger than diameter hole through the fiberboard, but because it's a little bit smaller bullet, I suppose, it didn't crack the whole thing. Now let's see what we got in water jugs. All right, the first jug, this is probably the second most amount of damage I've ever seen, with the first being that 10mm. So the 10mm did seem to provide a little bit more damage on the first jug. Second jug looks about the same as the 10mm. I can actually see the bullet in the third jug right now. And we're going straight through this. Jug 3, impact. The exact same amount of dent out the back as we have with the 10mm. So that theoretical sectional density thing, it played out with this. So like the 10mm, we're talking about 15 inches ballistics gel comparison. And what we have is the exact same thing. It flattened out. It's a smaller diameter when we end up with it because it's started out a little smaller. But what I'm seeing here is very comparable performance. Now these are certainly not bear rounds or anything like that. These kind of have their own place. They're probably a little bit too much for personal defense rounds, but something maybe like black bears, cougars, something like that, probably make an excellent round, or even possibly whitetail hunting. Probably take one with either of these rounds. So it's a little bit light for caliber, but excellent performance overall. I was just really surprised. I was definitely surprised with the lower recoil of that 10mm. Had very little recoil. Not really much different than a 45 ACP in that same gun. So really low recoil. The 357 had a little bit of recoil, but it wasn't unbearably high. So no matter how you look at it, these particular rounds are just excellent rounds, just excellent. You really can't ask for better than this. Very good, powerful rounds. So that's what you get today when you do the ultimate test. You go up real high in power with relatively light for caliber bullets. Very excellent performance. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.